Layflat has carved out quite a role in irrigation, from being used as distribution line to being used as a drip manifold. I'm going to show you how to use Layflat, from how to use fittings to use it as a main line, to how to punch into Layflat and install teardrop fittings to use it as a drip manifold. Today, we're working with 2-inch Layflat for a 1-acre farm, but Layflat is available in a wide variety of different sizes for a wide variety of different irrigation systems. To connect Layflat to a water source, you usually use either a slip by Layflat adapter, male threads by Layflat adapter, or female threads by Layflat adapter. There's an adapter for pretty much any type of water source. Let's get started by connecting at our water source. In this instance, we'll be using a 2-inch Layflat by male threads adapter to connect to this irrigation system. We'll put the threaded end into our regulator, and then we're ready to connect our mainline Layflat to the barbed end. All right, now let's roll out our Layflat and get it connected to the water source. When you cut your Layflat, try to make sure the line is as perfectly straight as you can make it. This will help when it comes time to put it on the fitting and help you create a secure, leak-free connection. We're ready to connect our Layflat to our water source. To do so, all we're going to need is a clamp, a 10mm socket wrench, our Layflat, and the barbed adapter we have connected. To start, slide your clamp on over the end of your Layflat. The clamp has to go on first. When you go to put the clamps on over the Layflat, turn the screw to unthread the clamp, thus opening it more. This will allow it to have a big enough diameter to go on over the outside of the Layflat. Then, slide the Layflat on over the barb of the adapter. This is also a good time to check to make sure you cut your Layflat nice and straight. A straight cut is less likely to leak. Once the clamp is on, you can tighten it up with this 10mm socket wrench. Now, be sure not to over tighten it, as you can crack or damage the fitting beneath. One thing to keep in mind, if you experience any leaking with one clamp, is do use a second clamp. If you're using T-bolt clamps, the trick is to have the bolt on one side on the first clamp, on the opposite side on the second clamp. This helps even out the tension and pressure. When putting on and tightening the clamp, make sure there's no folds or overlaps in the Layflat beneath, as this can result in leaking. All right, now we're ready to run our Layflat from the top row all the way down to the bottom row, where we can build our manifold or header row. All right, we've got our Layflat ran down from the first row to the last row. Now we're ready to cut the Layflat and begin installing fittings. Now, I'm gonna make the cut in the Layflat a little bit past this last bed. The reason being, we're gonna wanna flush our Layflat before we use it and during its use as an irrigation line to make sure we get any debris out, and I don't want that flushed water to go into the bed. So I'm going to cut it a little bit beyond the bed. Now we've got all of our Layflat ran. Now we need to connect the Layflat that runs from the water source to the Layflat that makes up our drip manifold. To do so, I'm simply going to cut into both Layflats and install a T-fitting. Just like the other fittings, I'll put the clamp on over the Layflat first, then I'll push it on over the barb and tighten the clamp. With all of our Layflat ran, it's time to cap off the ends. To do so, we're simply going to use this barbed insert plug. Just like with the other fittings, we'll slide our clamp on over the Layflat. We'll insert the insert end into our Layflat until it's completely covered, and then we'll clamp it in place. Then our Layflat will be ready to be pressurized. We left one end uncapped down there at the low end at the very last bed. The reason we did that is so we could perform a system flush. System flush gets any debris that got in during installation, and some almost always does, flush right out the end. To perform a system flush, simply turn on the water source and give the water enough time to run from the water source to the top where we have it capped, and then out the end at the bottom, and then let it run for a few moments longer. The water has to have enough time to travel the entire system and dislodge any and all debris to flush it right out the end. Okay, let's turn on our water. Now, give the Layflat some time to fill up with water. There are some applications where you might not need to flush your Layflat. For pretty much any irrigation application, you should flush your Layflat first. Rather than use an end plug at the bottom of our Layflat run here, we're going to use this little assembly. This is a Layflat barb by male threads with a female pipe thread ball valve. Now, the reason for this is it works as an end plug when the valve is closed. But whenever we need to flush water at the lines or drain after a watering cycle, we simply open the valve. When the flush is complete, close the valve. Going this route is a lot easier than trying to unclamp and then remove and then reinstall an end plug every time you want to do a flush cycle or every time you want to drain the lines. Just like with the other fittings, we've got our clamp on over the Layflat. We're going to insert the barb and clamp it in place. Okay, now that we've completed our mainline installation, we're ready to connect our irrigation system to it. We'll be connecting some drip tape using teardrop fittings. If you're new to Layflat, you may be wondering what a teardrop fitting is. A teardrop fitting, as its name implies, is a fitting with a teardrop shape at the end. Now this teardrop shape is what allows it to be connected into the wall of Layflat without leaking. This is how people make drip manifolds or run laterals off of a Layflat main. Teardrop fittings come in many different shapes and types. For example, I have two with me here. This one is to connect poly tubing so you can make laterals off of a Layflat main. This teardrop valve fitting is to connect drip tape, what some people know as a emitter line, and use your Layflat as a drip manifold. And it even comes with a handy on-off valve. Teardrop to drip tape fittings come with or without the valve. The possibilities are endless for what you can connect to your Layflat. Teardrop fittings come threaded. This, for example, is half-inch male pipe thread. So any female pipe threaded connection could be connected to this after the teardrop is inserted into the wall of your Layflat. Teardrop fittings were also available as a plug. Essentially, the plug threads onto this threaded connection. This means if you make a bad cut with your Layflat cutter that you don't need, or need to pull something out that you no longer need, you can plug it up without having to waste that whole section of Layflat, or without having to cut it out and repair it with a coupler. An important thing to account for when using Layflat and teardrop fittings is that the cutters are available in different sizes. It really depends on the size of the hole for the size of the teardrop fitting. To determine what size cutter you need, check the specifications for the teardrop fitting that you'll be using. It should state which size cutter it requires. Just like there's different size cutters for different size teardrops, there's different size hex wrenches for different size fittings. Now, in general, larger diameter tubing or tape is going to use the larger hex wrench. That's not always true. So be sure to check the specifications for the fitting you're using to see which hex wrench is the best to use with it. With our Layflat ran and our holes cut out, it's time to attach the adapters that will connect our drip tape to our Layflat mainline. Today, we're using the 10mm T-handled hex installation tool. First, we'll unthread the valve from the rest of the fitting. That way we just have mostly just our teardrop to work with. Then we're going to insert this into the teardrop into the hole. Now we've partially filled the line with water to make it easier for the hole to separate so that we can get this tip of the teardrop fitting started. We're also doing it under direct sunshine. Now, the hotter the Layflat is, the easier it is to get the very last part of the teardrop in. This means partially charged with water to make it easier to get started during the hottest part of the day under direct sunlight to get it finished. One last little step is to slightly unthread the teardrop because you want the wall of the Layflat to rest between these two. Then you simply make a cut in the Layflat with your Layflat cutter. We're using the 14mm cutter. Now it has to be along the crease in the Layflat. Then use a T-handled hex tool to install your teardrop fitting. Now you'll push the tip of the teardrop into the hole you cut, followed by a twist and push motion. One tip I've found that makes it much easier is to also push on the teardrop with your thumb. Remember, the warmer the hose is, the easier this will be. After it's in, you'll just thread the fitting back together and you're done. If you're working on cool hose, this will take quite a bit of elbow grease. Remember, twist and push down into the hose simultaneously. The first few may be really difficult, but it's one of those things that after you've done some, it even becomes simple. Now, keep in mind to do it on the hot part of the day. It's much easier when it's warmer. I can't say that enough. Layflat is a great, flexible solution for anyone needing to move a lot of water for drip irrigation, a sprinkler system, or even simple water transference. It seems intimidating at first, but once you dive in, it's actually pretty straightforward. If this video was helpful, drop us a like below. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out in the comments. We read and reply to every comment we receive. Or you can reach out to us at dripdepot.com. If you'd like to see how we used Layflat for the irrigation in a 1-acre farm, check out the video right there.